I've been on this platform for a really long time now. And I'm sure I'm not the first to say it, but I can't help but think that YouTube used to be better. I had a channel back when YouTube was like the Wild West, and making friends and growing in the YouTube community when it was still young still feels like one of the most exciting parts of my entire life. I'm not sure if it's just nostalgia, but I really would give anything to go back and revisit that part of my childhood. And while revisiting your childhood is nothing new for anime, there is one show in particular I've wanted to talk about for a little while now. I want to talk about your childhood versus you in Tokyo Revengers. If you don't know, Tokyo Revengers is an anime based off a manga written by Ken Wakui that serializes in Shonen Jump's edgy older brother, Kodansha's weekly shonen magazine. The same publisher as massive titles such as Attack on Titan, Hajime no Ippo, Blue Period, and basically everything Hiro Mashima shits out. The whole story revolves around our main guy, Hanagaki Takemichi, who is thrown back into his 13-year-old body in order to stop a gang war which causes the accidental death of Takemichi's childhood girlfriend. But to do that, Takemichi needs to join what would become one of Japan's most formidable Yakuza groups, the Tokyo Manji Gang, a gang that coincidentally formed in Takemichi's middle school years. And the show is great. Even though the anime looks like a low-budget hentai some of the time, the story genuinely is great. The supporting cast is great. The fights are great. Even the romantic parts of the show are great. But what really sold me on this show was when I heard rumors that Ken Wakui himself was actually part of a Japanese biker gang when he was younger. And whether that's actually true or not, after hearing that, the whole show started feeling a lot less like a quirky power fantasy about teenage Yakuza, but more so Wakui's way of reconnecting and reminiscing with some of the best years of his life. And when I started watching the show through this lens, there were some quiet moments amidst all the gang wars and the violence that felt so oddly heavy and relatable. Like Takemichi having that one last conversation with one of his best friends, knowing that this might be the last time they see each other. Or looking back on a relationship that he let slip through his fingers. Or wondering if his life really will become anything more interesting than it was when he was 13. There's something oddly personal about a lot of these moments in the show. And to explain why I think that's so important to me personally, I need to tell you the story of a little channel called Pyrus Brawler 196. Let's go back to December 2009. Beyblades were back, and they weren't the goofy plastic spinning tops they used to be, but they were made of metal and surprisingly technical. There was this whole type advantage chart where certain types of Beyblades would have a better chance over other types, like attack types would beat out stamina types because stamina types, while spinning for a really long time, were super dainty and would topple over really easily, whereas attack types span super fast and aggressively and send stamina types flying out the stadium. These things were borderline dangerous, and they were f***ing dope. And the TV anime that came along with it was weirdly really good too. It was kind of like Hunter x Hunter, but instead of Nen, everybody had Beyblades, I guess. But like I mentioned, they were only available in Japan at this point, so our guy over here found a seller on eBay who was shipping them outside of Japan and bought a couple to make videos about. And he named his channel Pyrus Brawler 196, which was obviously the coolest name I could think of. Pretty quickly after making those first two Beyblade reviews, I started making a lot of friends online who were around the same age and discovered there was a huge online community for Beyblades. And not before long, we hit 100 subscribers. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but this is 2010 YouTube we're talking about here. There are only like 2 channels that had more than 1 million subs. It felt like a big deal. Since those first few videos did so well, and I'd found myself a pretty tight-knit group of friends online, This cycle of saving up pocket money, ordering Beyblades from Japan, and making videos about them sort of became the new routine for the next little while, and life was good. I think it was around here that they announced that they were bringing Beyblade Metal Fight to the West, so naturally the Beyblade community exploded and the views and the subs just kinda kept rolling in. I think a lot of the success and the fun parts of having this channel were to do with how YouTube was as a platform back then. It was a lot more focused on growing as a community with things like group pages and channel comments and DMs and friends lists, and channels in general were just so different back then. I mean, look how cool and customizable this was. It kind of helped too that everyone in the Beyblade community was really nice and cool, probably because a lot of us didn't have too many real life friends. So it was nice to escape from school where keeping the whole Beyblade channel a secret was a top priority. Fast forward to October 2010, at this point, 3 pretty major things happened. 1, Pyrus Brawler would get his hands on an HD camera. This was back when HD was still like a new thing, so making videos in HD was a pretty big deal. 2, the channel became part of the YouTube Partner Program. Back when the Partner Program was this crazy thing you could do to put ads on your videos and make money. And to the shock of my parents, the checks just rolled in. And because of that, I was able to afford lighting equipment, new software, new computer. I was getting pretty good at editing, doing my own motion graphics too. So in general, the quality of the channel's videos just skyrocketed. And 3, a few people at school caught word about the channel. Luckily, they were actually really cool and the nice kind of people that didn't want to take a stab at the guy making dorky videos on the internet, but eventually, word got around and pretty much everybody at school found out. At this point, I think my channel, along with a lot of the other bigger Beyblade channels, were just about at the point where they were starting to blow up, since Beyblades were getting to the height of their popularity. I just had to keep doing what I was doing and life would be good. But it had almost been a couple of years since we started this crazy Beyblade journey, and I had other things I wanted to make videos about, but a lot of the time, uploading a video that wasn't about Beyblades would get met with an angry mob of people who just wanted their Beyblade content, and that was getting kind of tiring. On top of that, my first exams were coming up at school, and at the time, making a career out of YouTube was not something anybody thought was a reasonable thing to focus on. And after the excitement of being the guy who made money off of YouTube had died down, getting rebranded as the Beyblade Boy really started to take its toll, and fitting in at school became really hard. I guess being a full-time YouTuber at 14, juggling exams and trying to fit in at school was a lot of pressure, and eventually it all just got a bit too much. I got pretty sick for most of the second half of that year, and I took what felt like a really long time off of school. There were some weeks where I couldn't really get out of bed. I all but disappeared from this huge community that I really did love being a part of. I stopped making videos because I was scared that people watching might not like them. And I stopped talking to everybody at school because I was so ashamed of my channel. And one day, at the peak of all that, I just came home from school and deleted everything. And to this day, that is my biggest regret. All these years later, I feel like I've left all that behind, but never really moved on. Not a week goes by where I don't think about what life would be like if I didn't give up on that channel, or just straight up delete everything. And I'm pretty bummed that that channel will always just be nothing but potential. I was really proud of what I made back then, and it might just be the nostalgia talking, but I really do wish I could at least watch those old videos. They were a huge part of who I am now, and the people who were in that circle of Beyblade friends really did play a big part of shaping who I've become, and I really miss the whole thing. So after hearing all that, you can probably understand how I felt after watching the first episode of Tokyo Revengers. I think Tokyo Revengers is a show about overcoming who you were. Takemichi goes back and forth between his 13 and 26-year-old self a few times throughout the show, and we find out that it's not always as simple as changing things in the past to fix things in present day. Expecting that going back and fixing some of the mistakes you made back then doesn't mean that you won't make mistakes now. You can go back and change things to fix the world around you, sure, but that doesn't fix you. At the end of season 1, Takemichi goes back to modern day. We find out pretty quickly that everything has changed for the worse. After all that's happened throughout this first season, things couldn't be much worse at all. It kind of made me wonder if it really would be worth going back to try change something. Or if instead, maybe Takemichi should have just used the whole experience as kind of a wake-up call to actually make something of his life. Maybe if you just looked right in front of you this whole time, then one day you won't have to feel like you need to go back in the first place. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this video. I plan on making more videos like this in the future, so maybe hit subscribe and one day we might surpass my old channel's 8,500 subscribers. While I'm here, I just want to give a few little shout outs to some people who I still keep in touch with from back in the Beyblade days. Their Twitch accounts, Twitter accounts, whatever it is, are all on screen at the moment. They're all really cool people, and you should check them out. Yes, that's pretty much it for me. I will see you in the next video, which may or may not be about Bleach or something else. I don't know yet. Bye!